All right, friends, it's time to give you loyal listeners a discount on protein powder. You may or may not know, but I launched my very first protein powder 2 years ago. It's a grass-fed beef isolate with only 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef, either organic cacao or organic vanilla, and organic monk fruit. Now, if you don't want any of the added flavor and sweeteners, you can also just get unflavored. And no matter what flavor you choose, you're getting over 23 grams of protein per scoop, which is going to keep you full and satisfied between meals. I love starting my day with a Fab4 smoothie and breaking my fast with that much protein. It makes a serious difference in my cravings and blood sugar balance the rest of the day, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Now, I never thought I'd own a product company, but when I got pregnant with Sebastian, I realized the majority of protein powders were chemically extracted or enzymatically extracted, and I wanted to use heat and water only. I wanted minimal ingredients because we don't need those emulsifiers, fillers, or added vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. All of those additions increase the chances that it's not going to work for your body, whether it be bloating, digestion issues. I just wanted pure, clean protein to keep you full and satisfied so you could build the most delicious Fab4 smoothie. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of the flavor. If you take a look at our reviews on Amazon, you'll see 5-star reviews for flavor. And that is key, because if you don't love your Fab4 smoothie and you don't love drinking your protein powder, you're not going to do it. It won't become a habit, and it's consistency that outpaces everything. So if you're here and you're listening and you want to give our protein powder a try, use the code podcast5 for $5 off your order. And let me know if you love it. My favorite ways to apply this protein powder is in my Fab4 smoothie, making freezer fudge, making chocolate milk, making hot chocolate, and throwing the unflavored into all my kids' baked goods. So let me know how you use it. Let me know if you love it, and share this podcast deal with your friends. Oh, I'm so excited to have today's guest on the show, Dr. Demeri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we were talking before the show started. I am like down a rabbit hole on female health and hormones, pregnancy, fertility, and just feeling like I need to get this information to all the female listeners who tune in every week. And you've been on my list for such a long time. We've had to do a couple of COVID-19 quarantine reschedules, but we made it.
Yay, we made it work. Before you had your child, I was worried. I was like, I got to get in before she pops.
I know, it's good. I'm really excited that this is coming out, because you do have such a specialty in fertility and the trimester 0, how to prepare your body for pregnancy and for baby. But I want you to just introduce your practice and your work a little bit, and then we'll go deeper into some of the categories I think everyone's really interested about.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a naturopathic doctor by training from Canada, and I started with focusing on women's health. And the more women I saw that kind of the root cause went back to their childhood, whether it was physically how they were, what they ate, vaccines, how they felt, their emotional status. And then then I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on pediatrics, because that's the root cause. So then I just saw children for 6 years. And then the more kids I saw with autism and ADD and leukemias and all kinds of issues, I thought, no, the root cause is pregnancy. We got to go way back to when this starts. And how can I influence couples at that time so the problems I'm seeing in my practice now can, some of them at least, be prevented? And the more pregnant, so then I became pregnant, and the story changed there. And the more pregnant moms I saw, I thought, wow, wait a second, this goes even back before then. What about conception? What about this egg and the sperm that meet? No one ever looks at these things. So back then, this wasn't a big field. We weren't taught anything about it in medical school. And so because I had issues with my first child, and she had all kinds of health problems and 8 surgeries later, I remember sitting at Sick Kids Hospital that first year, just looking around me with all these sick children. And of course, Sick Kids is very world renowned. Everyone from all over the world comes there. So you see a lot of kids that are sick. And I saw some of my friends from naturopathic school with their kids there. And we were both like, we are so healthy, we didn't do drugs, we didn't do anything. And I was young, I was 29. And I thought something's not right here. Something's going on because it is on the rise. Childhood illnesses are on the rise. Autism is on the rise. Everything is on the rise. And what's causing this? And how come no one's talking about it? You go to your OB or your gynecologist and you want to have a child, and usually they just say, get your STDs tested, don't drink too much. And pretty much that's it. You're not really given anything. And then they just say, try it, go for it. And then when you're pregnant, everyone changes. Everyone wants to eat clean. And then everyone wants to kind of take their prenatals, And so I sort of invented at that time, during her 7th surgery, I thought of the idea of trimester 0 before everything is started, because everything's already done. Everything's formed. Everything is pretty much set for the rest of their life, at least genetically. But epigenetically, can we change things by impacting the quality of sperm and the quality of the eggs and the quality of this nest, this home that is going to be carrying this embryo or this child for the next 9 months? And so that became my passion, not really by choice, to be honest, but because I was terrified to have another child, and I always wanted to have like 10 kids. And after her, I was like, there's no way I'm having another one. And so I began researching and diving into everything from mercury, and I had 8 amalgams that I was never tested for. I was anemic. My iron was low. I had Hashimoto's. I had all these thyroid issues, which no one had tested. I basically had to become my own detective and put myself on all these protocols and guinea pigged myself. And then I had a really healthy child, who is night and day. And so for the longest time, I felt so much guilt from the fact that I did that for him, that I never came out with this program, and I met a friend here a couple of years ago who was like, you need to do this. Like, you're dishonoring your child, first of all, by keeping this information out of your own guilt. Like, what is that? It's so selfish. And so that's how the course was created. And that's what I do right now. Pretty much 90% of my practice is helping couples have healthy children.
I love that so much. If you don't mind me asking, what happened with your daughter?
Yeah, so she has a few things. She has what's called Turner syndrome, which most miscarriages we hear about are chromosomal. That means either an X chromosome is missing, or they have an extra Y or an extra X. And the body is very intelligent. It actually lets it go because it's not healthy. Well, it's interesting because back then I always blamed myself, and everyone pretty much blames the eggs, the quality of the women, her age, right? And the more research I did, I thought, because I had a miscarriage previous to her, an ectopic, and I thought, this can't be right. I'm like so healthy. I exercise, I eat well. And I found a lot of research looking at sperm quality with miscarriages. And so it's interesting because at that time, no one was talking about the men. Like, even to today, even the men that come in, they're like, oh no, it's not me, And so there was that link that I found. And so I was very curious. And so with the second, we definitely made changes with sperm and eggs. So she's missing an entire X chromosome. And so this feisty little one wasn't supposed to be here, according to the doctors. I was supposed to miscarry her. But she has Peter's anomaly, which is blindness in one of her eyes. And again, that has, from my research, it's so rare that there's a lot of mitochondrial issues that can happen, which means the part of the body that gives you energy, right? The child gets all its mitochondria from the mother, which is egg quality. And that's why it's super important that we do certain things. And so a lot of my moms will come in, dads too, who are tired. That is like the number one sign of mitochondria maybe not working right. Mitochondria helps your muscles have energy. So when you work out, the mitochondria, if you remember science class, grade 10, gives you ATP, it gives you fuel, right? And so can you work out? Do you feel good after you work out? Can you do more and more push-ups, or are you getting more fatigued easily? Do you get sort of like these flu-like symptoms when your muscles are aching and you just kind of feel like you're coming down with something, but it's not a cold or a flu? These are all mitochondria. So this is very important for egg quality, and that's what every child gets if they get it from us. So there is an importance with taking care of our eggs and making the ones that we have as best as quality as they can be. Now, there's not a lot of research on this because most research comes from IVF, where we can actually take the eggs out right? We can't ethically really test natural people who get pregnant because you're not going to go remove anything.
Right.
But there's a lot of research on rats and animals. And one of the things I found was intermittent fasting can really help egg quality, prolong that. So they had rats in different groups. And again, these are rat studies, so they're not double-blind placebo, but it's still really interesting to look at women who are constantly eating, right? Snacking versus not going into that fasting stage where we know there's autophagy, where the body actually cleans itself out, where the body actually gets a break. And a lot of the food we eat actually aren't adding. They're actually depleting. There's more work. There's more antioxidants having to be used just to digest what was in that meal. So I started incorporating that. We used to fast a lot religiously in Iran and for the planets. And there were months of the year and times of the year where my grandmother would always fast. So fasting wasn't new to me. But when I saw this research, I was like, wow, interesting that this actually helped the egg quality. Well, why isn't anyone talking about intermittent fasting for women earlier on? Because 50% of pregnancies happen unplanned. And it's not like everyone is sitting there going, okay, I'm married and it's been a year now, let's start. Most of them, that's 50-50. So it's important to have these discussions, I think, earlier on, even with teenagers, even in schools, even with their PCPs, But often it's the opposite. I was put on the pill for years, not knowing all the side effects. And then I was just told, you can get off at any time and then just try right away. And I still hear this from top gynecologists, and I completely disagree. I feel like that is really bad information and it has impact. And there are studies showing it can take 9 to 12 months to get a regular cycle again. And I think the difference with conventional medicine and what we do is they're not trying to optimize. They're trying to just make sure there's a live birth, right? That's how studies are done. It's all about, did you give birth? That's it. And it stops there. And then they go see the pediatrician, and then they come see me when they're 25, 35 with Hashimoto's, autoimmune disease, all kinds of problems, right? No one's putting it all together and going, wait, what happens to all these kids that are going through, let's say, IVF or going through this? What happens to them when they're 60, when they're 50? And are they optimal? I know we gave birth, but is this child the best version that you could have possibly had? I mean, we're not in control of everything, but at least do the best you can. And it literally takes 3 to 6 months, and you can impact 2 generations. I always say, if you're having a daughter, you are impacting not just your child, but your child's child. And so it's huge. It's such a big impact that you're going to have on your grandchildren by what you eat, how you think, what you put in your body, what you get out of your body that shouldn't be in your body, and just consciously conceiving, out of love, out of connection, I was asking, my practice is pretty much all fertility. So I've seen patients all morning before you. And I always ask that question, like, why do you want to have children? And people are always like, huh? They're not even asked that anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's such an important question though. And I think, it resonates with me, the mom guilt of having a child that went to the NICU and was given antibiotics and given, TPN nutrition and thinking about all the things that kind of didn't go. We were at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, and thinking about things that didn't go, quote unquote, as planned. Right. But what you're giving people is information. It's not to create mom guilt. It's not to say if you're part of the 50% that didn't plan to get pregnant and now you're pregnant, there's nothing you can do. There's definitely things you can do, and we can talk about that. But it's so important. And I wish people told me too, because there are so many clients that I have that are coming to me and wanting to get pregnant. And they're like, I'm going to get off the pill now, and then I'll try next month. And great. And you're like, okay. I mean, I know you were so afraid of getting pregnant, and then they either how long it takes to get pregnant or that nutrition and their lifestyle really plays such a huge role in the 3 parts of getting your body ready for pregnancy, which is getting your eggs ready, getting your nest ready, and making sure your husband or partner is getting their sperm ready.
It's 50-50. And then there's that home. But just going back to the pill, if anyone is on there, because most of us are, I was on it, I didn't know. it's not that it's going to make you not pregnant, although there is this thing called post-pill amenorrhea, and it exists. I don't care who says it doesn't. Come to my practice. I will show you hundreds of females who are pretty upset that they were never told and didn't get consent, that they just thought once you come off it, your brain's going to go, okay, I know how to do this. I've been suppressed for a while, but I will pick it up again. Most often it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Then what do you do? And then secondly, it changes the microbiome. And so my focus with Trimester Zero is always, I say, the number one system I want to optimize is your gut and your immune system. Your gut and your immune system is the same thing, your microbiome, because that child's immune system is going to depict pretty much every disease they could or could not get. Everything is linked to your immunity. So it's very important, especially with all the vaccines that are now given. Like, you want a child with a very strong immune system, and more C-sections. So I've been there. I had a home birth, water birth, and then I had a 42-week C-section. I've had every drug that you could think of given to me for that C-section versus nothing. So I am all about this mom guilt needs to go. Nothing ever goes as planned. You literally have to have a plan and then just be okay with completely letting it go. But that's the beauty of becoming a parent, is you learn how little can control you are, and just learning to do the best that you can with whatever you're given in that moment. So I love that you said that, because I think at the beginning, the first child, yes, you have all these rules and you don't want to give antibiotics and you don't want to do all these things. And then you just have to do what's best at that time. And guilt is the worst thing, I always say, to have. So it doesn't serve anyone. So
it doesn't.
That's you watching, let it go.
Yeah. Right. So if you're pregnant and you're in the 50% that didn't plan it, go take my pregnancy course, eat good food, and we'll call it a day.
Because now you can do something. Yeah. Kelly's course is going to teach you what to eat, what nutrients you need, how much of it, and why. And then you're good. You can feel good that I did it.
But I want to give everyone the tools, if they're in the 50% who are listening in, who have thought about having children. Maybe they haven't even been asked why they're having children. But if they're thinking like, maybe this is my future and I want to consider this, I want them to optimize in those 3 to 6 months prior to getting pregnant. And I want to pick your brain about that. Let's talk about the areas of the body. I want to talk about the egg, the sperm, and the nest. And I want to talk about the gut. So we'll start wherever you want to start.
Let's start with assessment. So the first thing everyone asks me is, what do I do? And the first question usually is, what do I eat? And I go, okay, hold on. Before what you eat, who are you? Because you shouldn't eat exactly what everyone else is eating. There is no one diet that is best for everyone. So in my course, because that's the number one question I do get asked, I break it down into your disposition. So if you are someone who is overweight, who tends to be hot, who tends to have acne, who tends to have cystic breasts or cystic ovaries, you're going to want very different foods and meals, perhaps, to someone like me, who tends to be on the cold side, low blood pressure, maybe on the hypothyroid side, hair loss, these things. So we might anemic, right? Versus someone else who's doing the medical medium celery juice every day. That would be horrible for me. I will have diarrhea. I will faint because it will lower my blood pressure. And I will have so much bile coming out from all that celery juice that my blood sugar would drop. So I'm trying to make a point that there isn't a right diet for everyone. There are therapeutic diets and foods that we might want to optimize your health, optimize your thyroid, optimize your nutritional status, optimize your equality, depending on who is this person that's lived until 29, 35. So I use Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine because that's what I studied. And I love Chinese medicine because of the disposition. If you tend to be on the hot side, you might want a little bit more of cooling foods. Not everyone should eat salads and smoothies all day. We think a healthy diet is a fertility diet. And I usually say, actually, a fertility diet might be that you might need some meat at this time because you are so anemic, and being vegan all these years may not be the best for you. You might need to gain a little bit more fat. I need that cholesterol to go up. So your progesterone and pregnenolone, all these precursors to your hormones go up. You might need to exercise less. You might need to exercise more. You might need to lift more weights and do less cardio, so it all depends. And so it really, everyone says, but tell me what? And I go, yeah, the Mediterranean diet has been studied the most. We want anti-inflammatory. But anti-inflammatory, there's lots of things, which one is best for you? And I'm a big proponent of intuitive eating and just going with when you are balanced, your body will crave the things that are good for it. And when you're not in balance and you're stressed and you're sad or you're angry or you haven't slept, you're tired, those are the times where willpower is not so great and we reach for things to just self-soothe. In terms of assessment, though, I always say go get a proper, thorough testing done. I had 2 patients this morning who are doing IVF, have had miscarriages. No one has tested their progesterone. Their thyroid have not been tested other than just TSH. Right? And I see this all the time. I'm like, your progesterone is low. Of course you're going to miscarry. You don't have enough. You should be on it. Or, you have these gene mutations. You don't methylate well. You need more folate. You don't need folic acid. And so these are just basic things that hopefully a functional medicine doctor, a naturopathic doctor, your gynecologist can test and look at everything from vitamin D, red blood cell folate, your red blood cell zinc. We're looking inside the cell, right? TSH, free T3, free T4, which is your complete thyroid panel. If you're not sure if you have Hashimoto's, get that checked out and ruled out. That's TPO. That's what most women have that can also predispose them to miscarriages. And so research shows that if they go on thyroid medication before, they have a 25% reduced risk of lowering that miscarriage risk just from 25 micrograms of levothyroxine. So these are things that you just don't think about until usually people come to me with 3 or 4 miscarriages. And I'm thinking, gosh, we could have prevented so many of these, and we don't test anything until there's at least 2 or 3, right? And we don't even look at the men until a year of problems have occurred. No one does a sperm analysis until there's been a year. And even then, sometimes it doesn't get done until there's 2 years and even 3 years. I'm like, has anyone looked at him? And no, they don't. And so proper assessment, I say, is number one. Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, even a year, you want to be in the best shape for you. Forget having children. Do this for yourself. Make sure you are optimal, and then get your sex hormones checked for sure. So if you're having regular periods, you're good. You've got enough estrogen. If you are having periods that are more than 35 days apart, 40 days, 50 days, you might have PCOS. So that's very hallmark classic. So you definitely want to make sure you don't have PCOS, which means you could not be ovulating. I mean, you have to ovulate to get pregnant. So we do a hormone test in those people for a whole month, just so I can check, are you even ovulating? When are you ovulating? Some of these LH predictor, the ovulation kits, they're not always 100% accurate. So it's really important that if you are irregular, you get yourself checked early. Don't wait till you're ready to get started, because usually it could take a year before we get you ovulating, and hopefully we get you ovulating and it's a good quality egg. But I can't tell you how many women I have who go now and get their eggs frozen or had their eggs frozen 2 years ago because they don't have a partner yet, and they have PCOS. So they looked great. What that means is there's a lot of cysts in the ovaries. And so it can look like follicles. It can look like, wow, this person's got tons of eggs. And they get the eggs extracted, and none of them are good quality eggs. They're not mature eggs. And so they keep using them with different sperm. And when I examine them now, I'm like, you have PCOS. You have high testosterone, high insulin, high DHEA. You're not ovulating. So of course you weren't then either. It doesn't just change like that in a year. So again, proper assessment is so key to just preventing so many issues coming on later. And again, these are basic things that should be run, in my opinion, on everyone. So day 19, 21 progesterone, or 7 days after ovulation. So you can check your cervical mucus. Hopefully it changes. It's like egg white, right? It's clear. So think of sperm can swim right through the cervix and get up there. If it's thick and white and not able to, you can't see through it, sperm's not going to get through. So that 1 day or 2 days where your cervical mucus changes, you want to have intercourse right at the beginning. And that's when you probably are ovulating. But if you're not sure, you can do the Dutch cycle map. Or sometimes I have patients come in and I do a PAP and I can see their os is open. And I'm like, yep, you are definitely open, for sperm to go in. So you can examine yourself too if you can reach your cervix and see. So there's lots of different methods to know. And that's really important. Am I ovulating? Do I have enough progesterone? Do I have enough iron? Do I have enough vitamin D? Usually we don't. Those are all really important. Do I have enough iodine? Iodine is so important for babies' IQ, dense breasts. So many women have dense breasts. They have cysts. These are all from iodine deficiency. And I also ask, do you sweat easily? Can you sweat quickly? When you get going on a hike, if you have issues sweating and you're like, yeah, it takes me forever to sweat, that could also be iodine deficiency. We're not eating a lot of seaweed and sea kelp and sea vegetables, right? And so iodine is really important to check. It's hard to check through blood. And most often I just say, make sure you're taking usually more than what's in your prenatal, at least for a little while, but obviously check with your doctor because it will affect your thyroid. And yeah, just getting a complete panel done. And you can also check your antioxidant levels. You can actually check CoQ10, which is really important for egg and sperm. And I recommend it for both prior. You can check antioxidants through the Dutch test, the H-hydroxy. There's a marker there for how much oxidative stress is in your body. And this is so important for sperm. Oxidative stress is probably, why we say, this, but for listeners, why we tell you to eat antioxidants. It's because of that. It's to combat the stress that can make these sperm not work properly. It can change their shape. It can make them not very motile, and it can make them not perform like they're supposed to. But also make sure, get the guys tested if you can. My ideal world would be that we test both. One day, there is such a thing as trimester 0. You come see me or any other gynecologist. Everyone gets tested thoroughly. And we don't want the men to be at the bottom of the range. This normal range used to be an abnormal range 20 years ago. And so because the rates keep coming down, we keep having to lower the norm. And so a lot of my couples will say, well, he's fine. And I never believe that. I'm like, nope, I got to see it. And 9 out of 10, I'm like, no, he's not fine. It's not that we're blaming, but I'm saying you keep blaming yourself. And I don't know why women, it's just sabotage. We always blame ourselves. Even when I find, I told this patient last week, I'm like, yeah, the man has sperm agglutination. It says it's clearly, which means the sperm is sticky. It's not even going up. It's stuck right there before it even gets above the cervix. And I said, 2 years, you haven't gotten pregnant because it's not even getting up there. And to this day, well, she's pregnant now, but she couldn't accept that. I don't know. And I was like, why do you think it's you? And so a lot of women blame themselves. And I think it's society, it's patriarchal, who knows? We need to let go of that, though. That needs to change. So get yourself tested, get the nest tested, which is what we just talked about. And then I can go into advanced things. If you've had a lot of miscarriages, often it's autoimmune. So you can get your natural killer cells tested in the uterus. A lot of other advanced things we can do, but I like to do a lot of them right from the beginning. And I do think it's necessary to rule things out before problems start. Why should I have 2 miscarriages to find out that I have a clotting issue? Why couldn't I have known that from the beginning and taken blood thinners? How many women come to me and I check their anticardiolipin antibodies, which is a marker for how you will clot. They've already had 3 or 4 miscarriages and no one checked that. And I'm like, that's why you need to go on blood thinners. And some other women have autoimmune disease. Sometimes I will prescribe and I say, you need to go on prednisone. Just in the first trimester, I had a patient with 10 miscarriages and her 11th one worked because we just suppressed the immune system in the first trimester and weaned her down. She was able to have her 11th, actually healthy baby boy. So I'm saying there's always a reason. I don't like unexplained infertility. I hate those 2 words because to me, it makes that person feel horrible. It puts such a pressure as to I'm unexplainable. I have something. I'm like, you don't have anything. There's nothing wrong with you. If I can't figure it out, that's my fault, you know, or someone else is not in tune. Maybe you're not in tune either. Maybe subconsciously you're blocked. Maybe there's an energetic block, or there's some sort of trauma that we haven't even investigated. Who knows? But there's always a reason. Your body is intelligent and never just randomly decides, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Survival mode. Most of us stressed. Cortisol is high. And so your body's like, I don't want to have high libido. I don't want to have sex. So a lot of women will have low libido. And that's really important to ask. Do you actually want to, you know? And if they say, no, not really. And I'm thinking, okay, well, why? And that is a symptom, right? That's not something that we say, oh, it's just age, I must be tired. No, because sometimes your cortisol is so high because you're stressed or you're perceiving stress, and your body shuts down the sex hormone pathway. It says, we don't want to make progesterone and all these sex hormones to get her pregnant because we got a lot to do right now, right? Our brain is not there to thrive. It's a reptilian, very old brain there to survive. And so it says, please don't have children. Please just survive. It's in survival mode. And so it's important to check your cortisol throughout the day and see if it's high and you're inflamed. You know, that's important too. Then you might not even be absorbing anything. It doesn't matter how well you eat, right? If you're in that survival mode and you're in sympathetic mode, which is go, 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 or it's like there's a lion in front of you in the morning, which was what mine showed last year when I checked. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's no lion in front of me. Why am I perceiving there to be so much to do? And that's often the thing with us feminine beings. We've become so masculine, you know, we've switched so much to doing versus being. And unfortunately, IVF, all these things, it's all very masculine. It's a lot of doing. It's a lot of do this, take this, eat this, don't do this, do that. And we've just forgotten the art of creating life. You know, to me, I feel like it shouldn't be this complicated, but it has become a little bit more complex. I talk to my grandmother and she's always like, what are you doing? Like, this is what you do? You know, why is it so complex now? And I'm like, life is different, Grandma. You know, technology and Teslas, and we're sitting on batteries, and, you know, life is different.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more stress, and there are so many more female entrepreneurs and type A go-getters who have big careers and big things going on. And, you know, we want to be able to support them. Yeah, I know. Raise your hand.
I'm not saying I'm not that person, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, but it's true. It can easily happen in today's day and age. A couple things that came out for me in what you just said was to get your nest prepared. Let's say your uterus prepared. We're really doing a full assessment on all of your hormone levels, sex hormone levels. We're looking at all your thyroid hormone levels to rule out low thyroid, which causes miscarriage. We're ruling out autoimmune diseases, which cause miscarriage. I don't think people realize, but your immune system is suppressed so that you can grow a baby. And so people, the steroid that you give your patients is just kind of calming that down a little bit so that they can have a baby.
Yeah, that's not my favorite thing to do. I'll say is I was averse to it for a long time, but when someone's had 10 miscarriages, I'm like, we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, right? your body's not getting the message. Yeah, your body's not getting the message, right? So we're just really looking at nutrient levels. We're looking at, like we said earlier, your sex hormone levels, your thyroid levels. We're making sure that everything is telling that nest, we're good to go. Yeah. You can have a baby now. And stress plays a role in that, as you just said. Looking at your cortisol levels, obviously they're going to steal all the precursors and say, let's go fight the fire. Let's run from the bear and the lion and the tiger versus have a baby, which makes perfect sense. So getting that full assessment is definitely, I totally agree with you, such a good thing for anyone to be doing. Let's dive into nutrients to increase sperm quality and egg quality. You touched on CoQ10 and getting your antioxidant levels tested or your oxidative stress levels tested. What's the exact marker people should be looking for? And what are some of your favorite antioxidants to increase egg and sperm quality?
Yeah, so I like doing the Dutch test on men and women because they have markers for all these other things like B12, B6, epinephrine, which again is the go-getter. So if a lot of moms and dads I'll see, they are very anxious and very restless internally, and they have too much of that biomarker. And then they have antioxidant markers on there too. These tests, I'll say, they're not conventional. So your gynecologist is not going to want to run it. They don't know about it. They're going to say, we don't know what this dried urine test is. There is research on it, comparing it to serum labs, and they're finding that it's very similar. But these are markers that there's research on. But to be on the safe side, I would say get your cortisol checked. At least get free cortisol from Quest, LabCorp. It's covered by insurance. No fancy tests. Anyone can run it for you. And just make sure you can get a 4-time serum at Quest or LabCorp, where you're getting it through blood, or you can do a saliva test and just do a spit test and see if you're too high or you're adrenally just burnt out, meaning I don't even have any energy to go by, then maybe we need to really get you up before you have this huge stressor on the body. Pregnancy is a very big stressor on the female body, and then you're going to nurse, and then you're going to deplete yourself from all these nutrients. So we want to get these tested before to make sure you're okay. And I'll just add for men, you also want to check homocysteine to make sure that, same for both women and men, that they've got enough folates and the methyl Bs and CRP. So CRP is another marker for men. I check usually HSCRP. CRP is a marker for heart disease and inflammation, but it can also tell you if the gut is very inflamed. Sometimes that will go up as well. And any symptom, if anyone has any symptom, that often is a sign that something's imbalanced. So I really work on the liver, which is in the gut, when I'm looking at both of them, because that's where our antioxidants are made. That's where your immune proteins are made. The liver is huge. And so I usually do a 21-day or even longer liver detox, meaning I really want to make sure the liver's working well. That's where all your hormones are converted to the sex hormones. That's when they're all broken down. So it's a very important organ to optimize all the time, not just for pregnancy, all the time. That's our aging, organ. And so you want to make sure, obviously, you're not going to find liver enzymes high on a blood test unless you're drinking a lot or on meds that destroy it. So don't think there's something wrong by testing it and go, oh, I tested it, it's okay. Look at your symptoms. How is your vision? The liver opens up to the eyes, right? So you want that really white sclera, which is why when someone gets hepatitis, what happens? It gets yellow. Can you see really well? Has your vision gone down in the last couple of years? Do you get headaches? Do you get migraines? This is a very typical liver headache or behind the eye. Gallbladder is all sides. Or if you get nauseous. Or why do we get nauseous when we're pregnant? Because that's a lot of hormones, and that can't be broken down by the liver and the gallbladder fast enough. And so the bile comes out, and bile needs to go out one way or the other. It either comes up this way or goes out the other way. So you want to optimize this before so that your pregnancy is also nice and easy. And you're not throwing up the whole month, right? And the whole 9 months. So I totally lost you, but I'm going back to the nutrients. So you're actually bringing up things that make sense, absolute sense to me. I don't think people realize, you just mentioned that elevated homocysteine and C-reactive protein, or CRP for men, that's a sign of inflammation in both men and in women. And you need B vitamins. You need those methylated forms of not either methylated B vitamins or natural forms of B vitamins from food, which, since they're synthesized in the gut, a lot of us are deficient. And a lot of times taking B6 supports lowering that, the nausea that happens in the first trimester. And I just had a major light bulb go on, because obviously if that's supporting the detoxification pathways, then your sex hormones aren't building up in your liver, and you're not having that excess bile, and you're not getting sick. Exactly. There you go.
Crazy. I love it. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, hello.
Should be on that. I know. And so I didn't either. And this is just years of doing this, and guys coming to me, and I'm thinking, why don't they ever get any blood tests done? They always usually just get their cholesterol and all the stuff tests. And I'm like, well, if his homocysteine is high or your homocysteine is high, you're not this is going to impact baby.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I also go back to symptoms. I do a full exam, and I'm looking at headaches, eyes, nose, allergies, immune system, eczema, immune system, psoriasis, immune system. If you have any symptom, we got to get to the root of that, hopefully before you have a child. And sometimes it's okay. It's not going to impact them that much, but sometimes it will. It tells me you're imbalanced, and find the root cause for that. How many women or men are on antidepressants, Adderall, and these impact, in my opinion, they absolutely impact the child. And sometimes, I don't have time to wean them off or find the root cause or do anything. And they're like, I need to get pregnant today. And so we keep them on there. But to me, there's always a side effect. When you're putting chemicals in the body, I am always thinking, is this something you would give a baby or a child? And it's not to induce fear or guilt. It's then thinking, okay, what do I need to give the mom extra to make sure that there's less side effects? And what are the side effects of this drug? Well, there's a website you can go to, mytavin.com, that I love. You put in the medications you're on or anyone else that's on it, mytavin.com, and just see. It'll show you research based on, let's say you put in statin, you put in Adderall, you put Wellbutrin, you put Prozac, whatever you're taking, and it'll tell you what it depletes, or your birth control pill. It'll say folate. If folate comes up at the top, or melatonin, or B12, or iron, or these are all, usually most of the ones that come up are very important for a baby and fertility. And it's not enough to just take it prenatal. You might need to eat foods that have those, or that are more rich in those, or you might need extra. So I prefer, if my ideal world was that no one's on any meds, so they don't have to, the baby doesn't, their liver's just not equipped to handle all that. But that's why it's nice to take time before and say, hey, let me get in my best shape for me. And everyone's different. Not everyone wants that. Some people are like, I'm okay with that. Just help me with this. What should I take? What should my guy take? And so we want the guys. I love L-carnitine. The higher the dose, the better. Most prenatals for men out there don't have enough. The research is on 5 grams of L-carnitine helps. So these are all helpful for the mitochondria, and that helps antioxidant levels. CoQ10 we talked about, 100 milligrams, 200 milligrams. It's not a lot of safety data on pregnancies. I usually take my moms off it, even though I feel like one day there'll be research showing it's fine. Typically, I say what's good for mom, it's got to be good for baby. But because we don't have enough research on that, we don't know. But even alpha lipoic acid, it's an antioxidant that's really helpful for both. And we didn't have a lot of data. Now we have some data that it's safe during pregnancy, although I feel like we still need more data. And acetylcysteine, these are all great antioxidants. The major antioxidant that your body makes is glutathione. So you can take that. However, I always like to give what the body can make it on its own. I like to give the precursors to food or selenium, zinc, just basic minerals. So I'm so old school. I always say everyone is low in minerals and digestive enzymes. That's probably what I always start with my patients on is I'm always like, you don't have enough magnesium, you don't have zinc, and you can do a zinc tally test. Most of us, we need zinc, and you've heard of COVID. It changes your taste and your smell. And so if you swish zinc around within 10 seconds, right away, you should feel a very metallic, gross, nasty taste in your mouth. Most of my patients, they can't even tell. It's like water. There's nothing there. And because, our soil is depleted, we're not getting these nutrients from our diet, or we're so stressed or having so much coffee every day that there's no stomach acidity. And so we don't even absorb these nutrients, or we're eating too fast and we're not really using food. Digestion all starts in the mouth. So you might want the guys to be on some of these things at least for 3 months before, and cut out the alcohol, cut out the marijuana. This affects sperm. Can't tell you how many times doctors have told them, nope, it's fine, totally. There's data. Of course it's going to affect it. Again, keep it simple. Would you give this to your baby? Would you put this product on your baby's face? Would you put this in the baby's mouth? I know it's a little exaggerated, but when you're in doubt and you're at the store and you're like, I don't know, if you don't know what's in there and the ingredients are really foreign to you and your grandmother wouldn't be able to pronounce it, you probably wouldn't give it to your child. So just keep it very simple and, don't complicate things. For women, I love all the B's. and all the minerals. I prefer vitamins to be taken more in the daytime. They tend to be a little bit more stimulating, like vitamin B12. Obviously, everything in its active form, like methylcobalamin, if you can tolerate it, if that doesn't make you anxious, methylfolate, not folic acid. And then minerals. We need more minerals, trace minerals, zinc, molybdenum, manganese, magnesium, iodine. Some people need more of one. Some people are constipated. They get foot cramps. Most of us during pregnancy, at the end, we start to tense up. We get Charlie horses and foot cramps, and it's no fun. That totally means you were magnesium deficient probably before, or needed some potassium electrolytes, right? So I even add electrolytes to water in a lot of my preconception moms and dads to get them really hydrated. Drinking water is not enough. Sometimes it doesn't really go where it needs to go. It's all about the sodium-potassium balance, and we're not getting enough potassium bicarbonate. Which brings me to water. Water is very important. What you're drinking, making sure it's either reverse osmosis plus minerals added in, or, it's not just a Brita or plastic water bottles, and really clean, because your air that you breathe and the water you're drinking is constant. So you really want to, if there's one thing you want to do, is fix that first. Which is why in Trimester 0, that's the first thing I say to do. I don't go through supplements. I don't say, here, take these vitamins, change your diet. I say, clean out your water, get rid of the toxins from, your home, household, makeup, all of that. Get good quality air, at least where you sleep, in your car, wherever you're working. And then let's work on, all the other stuff, because that's going to impact your baby. What you're breathing is what your baby's going to be breathing, and what you're drinking is usually what they're going to be drinking for the rest of their life. So that's probably really important. In terms of gut health.
I'm going to stop you for a second because I have some questions. That's great stuff. When I think about good quality water, and when I think about air purifiers, let's start with water purification systems. We're in a rental right now, so we'll be in a house soon, but we have a Berkey, which pulls fluoride and a lot of things. And then I have the blue bottle of trace minerals that I drop into my water. Do you have a favorite filter, or for people who are in a house that can install a filter versus a countertop Berkey? Do you have trace minerals, air purifier? Like, these are the kinds of things that people can make real changes with right away.
Yeah, so I love locally from Aliso Viejo here in California. There's a company called Pristine Hydro. I'm not an affiliate. I don't get anything from them, but they are truly the best, because a lot of the reverse osmosis, they're actually in plastic, and so, I've spent so many years looking into this because of my daughter. She has so many genetic issues that I had to really care more for her than anyone else. And I love their products. It's a lot of athletes use it. It's not cheap. So when I was renting, I had a Berkey, and that's also great. There's a lot of controversy around, reverse osmosis, because the minerals are all removed. It can affect our teeth. And honestly, you should not be getting your minerals from water. You should be getting it from fruits and vegetables. But we do drink a lot of water, so it can sometimes offset depending on what you're eating. So if you're not eating it, then just put it in there. And Pristine Hydro has their minerals that you can add in if you are using a different kind of under the sink reverse osmosis, which is not expensive. Even Home Depot sells them. And even if you're in a rental, you can just get that put in, and you can take it out with you when you leave. I don't love all the other ones, honestly, that are advertised by many, because most of them are in plastic. And so I'm just a big anti-plastic girl. Like I always say, no plastic in the house. Tupperware, you don't need it. Just kind of be like, alcoholics, or like, I'm alcoholic free. Just say I am plastic free, styrofoam free, all these things that it's really good to just get that out of your system before you have a child. So your child also learns, we don't use aluminum foil on, potatoes, because all the aluminum is going to go in the potato, or just becoming conscious of these things. Saran wrap in heat, microwaves in plastic, Tupperware, So water, I like Pristine Hydro. Collagen, and there's some Aquasana for whole house. So I have that in the whole house system. You don't need to worry about that too much. Showers, just get a chlorine filter, because your baby's probably going to be bathing in water. And so they are going to get a lot of these chlorine, fluoride, things that are in water that can basically displace iodine, because they're all halogens. And so that's why it's also not great for us. You see a lot of thyroid issues here in California. And I think it's environmental, because they'll say, I moved here from India, I moved here from Brazil, I moved here from Africa. And that's when all their thyroid issues start. And it's like, is it the food? Is it the ocean? Is it the radiation? What is it about our environments that is triggering all these Hashimoto's and thyroid issues? So with water, that's what I like. For air, I like the IQ air. So I have the whole house one. So they come and they put it in your duct and they do a before and after measurement. So if it's not working, you don't have to pay for it, and they leave. They say we couldn't fix it. And it's just amazing to see the particles. I mean, the amount of cleaning I had to do before, and then after this was put in, I'm thinking, wow, we used to breathe all that in. That was like literally coming off, and now it's not. So IQ air. There's lots of other things I used to have, like the molecule. But to be honest, there's more research showing that it's like an antibiotic. So it does sometimes clean out too much, and we don't know the side effects of that. So I have a lot of colleagues in environmental medicine who this is their expertise, and they're not big on these gadgets that are very trendy and look great, and they promise, nanoparticles are all removed. So I had 2 molecules and I loved it because I just thought it was working, and they sold me on the marketing side. But I think it's nice to just focus on a HEPA filter and have that by your room. Be careful when you plug something in, like my sauna that I researched to death. These things give off EMF. So sometimes you're cleaning out the air, but now there's like more radiation or, electromagnetic fields given off from that being right by your bed. So I know we're getting really nitty gritty, but this is what I geek out on. I have my house.
I'm right there with you. Like I think about it's like people are like, what's on your baby list? And I'm like, well, the thing I use is a mini fan. It's not like the electronic ones.
Yes,
the old school, baby video camera I use is like an optics radio. It's not EMF connected to my phone, connected to a Google.
She's right by the baby's brain, like right there.
Yeah, I'm like, I want all this stuff to shut down. In my perfect world, I would go without it. But that's like a compromise with Chris. So it's those kinds of things where you're like, I know it's making my life easier, and it's like the apps and it's so great. But yeah.
I had a guy come before I moved into this house. I started getting tired. So I blamed it on work schedule. I must be stressed. I have 2 little kids. And I was like, intuitively, I was like, something's not right. And it's a pretty new house, and so I had it tested for mold. And of course, lo and behold, the black mold came up, and I'm like, oh man. So I had to open all the kitchen. Before I did that, I was like, since I'm going to open up everything, I may as well get it tested for EMFs. And so there's a guy in LA, he's a building biologist, who basically, I shouldn't say names, but he's the guy that teaches everyone up there who's big, everything. And he's just like this beautiful human being. I think his website is createhealthyhomes.com. Wealth of information, all the research on how EMFs affect ovaries, sperm, cell phone use, like all from Europe. A lot of this is from Europe because Europe, they have such tighter regulations on cell phones. Here, if a cell phone just heats up a doll, that's the only way they say if it's safe or not. It's about heat. Whereas they're actually measuring EMFs, and that's why cell phone towers are banned in schools, not like here. So anyways, he came and he tested. He has all these massive gadgets. And that's when I really learned, wow, when my cell phone is dialing, it would go off the charts. And so I learned, okay, if you're going to use a cell phone, at least when it's dialing, put it away. Don't hold it right by your ear. Once it's dialed and it's click and someone says hello, then it's okay. It went down to like 10. So you learn these things and you teach your kids. And so he had us lie in our bed, and my daughter has this coil bed because it's this princess bed and it's very much metallic. Mm-hmm. Well, metal conducts electricity, and it's like hers was off the chart. So she's lying there holding this gadget and got tested, and he was like, yeah, you got to change her bed. Just wood, her mattress had coil in it, and changed that. And we retested it. And so I just feel like these things are not huge, but they add up every day. So why would you already add a child that already has more mutations than you and I do? Every generation is going to be more mutants, right? So they have harder time breaking things down than our grandparents did. So why add more stress to their body and their system? So that's what we're doing as parents. We're not becoming OCD and crazy. And no, I said to him, look, I need my phone. I need to use my thing. This is like what I do for a living. I've got my Zoom, I've got this, I've got that. What can I do? So he just taught me. He said, here, buy this, you put it into the wall and just plug this in, and it just takes away a lot of it. Instead of the baby camera that you use, get this one. And so it was just figuring out a replacement. And I was like, okay, this is doable. And so I think this is what we're trying to do, is educate people and say, it doesn't have to be like that. You can't use your cell phone, or you can't do this, so right. That's, I think, really important too, is look at where's your child going to sleep. Get that area tested at least. And you don't want their head right by, the outlet, or who knows. We had in the kitchen, going back to the black bolt story, we found magnetic radiation, which is like very bad. It's way beyond EMFs. It's not even comparable. So they had done the wiring incorrectly, whoever built the house or repaired the house. So when I was cooking in the kitchen, this was affecting me. So it was the mold, which I gutted, and I have pictures, just black everywhere. So these things, they're breathing this in. I was breathing this in, and my energy is back to normal again. So yes, it's like these subtle things that could cause disease down the road, right? Or if I was very sensitive, this would affect a lot of things. So these are things, again, that who knows? But it's nice to just get these little things like looked at. Am I tired? Could there be mold here? Do I smell anything when I enter the house? Is it musty? Or did anything change when I first moved in here? Is it by the ocean? Is it wet? So, look at these things, but don't obsess about it. Don't become too attached to anything. Just say, okay, what do I need to do? Let me do my best. Moving on. Right?
Right. No, it's exactly true. And I think it's the same way I look at everything in my practice with clients, is like making these little changes, picking one thing and just chipping away at it. Whether that's like you running out of your cleaning supplies and saying, okay, I'm going to pick something else, and I'm going to try something else with this next purchase. And you elevate. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have a bag of toxins. I'm never going to be able to figure this out. It's one by one. And I can, just like even with you, what we were just talking about, like we got the Berkey and I got better at using my 40-ounce Yeti. And now I can't tell you how many times I go, grocery shopping, dash on errands, like go see clients. And I don't need to say yes to the plastic water bottle that's offered to me. And I don't need to grab the, I've saved a lot of money too in water in general when it comes to just like purchasing that and drinking out of that. But it is something that it's been sort of purged out of my life for so long now that we go to my mom's house. She's like, they buy bottles and bottles of plastic water from Costco. And it's something that I know is so convenient for them. But I'm also like, Mom, I really don't want Bash to drink that, And I just don't, I think that there's what was so convenient for so many people for so long was like fast grown produce, fast grown proteins, chemicals to fix things, antibiotics to fix things, quick fix, ease, use paper, plastic, styrofoam, like dinner in 3 minutes in your microwave. And you're like, what? And it's just like kind of really stripping away. And I will tell you, like that minimalistic approach to life, the simplifying of life, the wood kids furniture, the clean water, like you just really start to just pick something in your life and start to clean it up. Because like you said, this is all affecting trimester 0. It's affecting you and your kids, your families right now, but it's definitely, it's having a massive impact on your future children too.
Exactly. That's even more important because you're setting that foundation and kids learn by modeling, right? So it's not enough for you to just do it for 3 months, hopefully, and then go back to this and then they see you doing it later. Really we want them to be probably more healthy than we've ever been part of ourselves. So I think it's nice to see them say, you know, my son, I gave him a bar the other day. I got a Whole Foods for free. I didn't even look at it, and I should have, but I wasn't. And so yesterday I gave it to him, and he's like, I'm not eating this, Mom. This is junk. It's got 12 grams of this. And he's 7, you know, and he like threw it out. He chose not to even eat it without my permission, without, you know, and usually I grew up poor, so I don't like throwing things away. And I was like, okay, you're right. He's like, it's just carbs. I need read the ingredients. It makes me like proud to know that he cares. He's not too crazy. Like if we go to birthday parties or if we're out with his friends, I don't want him to be like, no, I'm not drinking water and, you know, starving.
Right, of course.
But these things add up. That's the whole point, is every day adds up till they're 40. And that's what we don't want, is most moms and dads now who are struggling, or who maybe not even struggling. Maybe they're so healthy like I was, and they're kind of ignorant to everything. They're like, oh, I don't need to do anything about anything. I'm good. Well, you'll probably get pregnant, no problem. You probably have hopefully a healthy baby, no problem. But it's, how is that child going to be when they're in school? How are they going to be as a teenager? Are they going to get allergies? Are they going to have autoimmune disease? Are they going to have heart disease? Are they going to become, you know, overweight and pre-diabetic? Are they going to have good energy? Is their IQ going to be good? All these things we don't even think about, which we hope they will. And we always are like, why wouldn't they? You know, her kid is and his kid is. And so we compare and we just think everything's okay. And it is usually. And the body is beautiful and it's intelligent, but the toxins in the air, the environment around us is really changing. The amount of things we are finding in that first baby's poop, the meconium, is scary. So no, what's in my umbilical cord that will get passed on now does not compare to what my mom got when her mom had her at age 19. You know, we are getting pregnant later. We are consuming a lot more foods outside our house. We're not growing our own vegetables. We don't know what's in these tasty, even healthy meals that are out there, you know? So all that's in us and we're passing it on. And then we just go, oh, I'll just take a prenatal. I'm good. And hopefully you start the prenatal early. Don't start as soon as you're pregnant. Even start it a year before and keep taking it after.
Right.
You know? I still sometimes take a prenatal. It really helps my hair. So
you have great hair. I'll give you that.
It's got the right amount of all the good stuff in there. You know, I always say, why do we treat pregnant women so well? And then once they're done, we forget.
It's true. I mean, we care so much about taking our prenatal and taking our multivitamin when we're thinking about conceiving, if we planned for it, when we're pregnant. But I do find that a lot of people stop taking their prenatal when they're even breastfeeding, or they take it for like 6 months and then they get lazy and they stop taking it. And then all of a sudden, like the hair loss happens, the nails, they're so.
And then they get pregnant again, and it's like, oh my God, the body didn't even like have enough time to recuperate. That's what happened to me 18 months later, and I was like, oh my gosh, you don't realize. And no wonder my adrenals were flatlined after my second. And I like couldn't wait for that morning coffee because I was just so tired. And I'd given up. I didn't have time to take a prenatal, which is probably when I should have taken it the most. But it just shows us we're such givers, you know, we're very much about nurturing others. And we forget the oxygen mask has to go on us first. And so I always encourage moms, even a year after, 2 years after, take it if you need that iron. Some of the prenatals don't have it. They have calcium. Some have iron, some have both. I'm usually not a big fan of both at the same time because they usually don't help each other absorb, but you need extra calcium and you also need iron. Usually most women are anemic or at least don't get enough from their meals. So it's nice to make sure you're taking extra if you're not able to get it from food.
So I have a question then. Timing of iron, if someone were to come back, low. You know, a lot of times you're testing your iron in your third trimester, checking in on that level, again at your third trimester blood draw. And a lot of times that's when it will show up for people. And if you don't already know that you're anemic and going into pregnancy, you still can become depleted throughout your pregnancy and it'll show up in the third trimester. Let's say people are taking their prenatal on its own and then they have like a chelated iron supplement separately. Would you take that at 2 totally different times of the day then?
Yeah. So iron has actually been shown recently this year, it came out that it's best absorbed if you take it every other day, not every day. So then this is new, like we didn't do this. That's not what I did all those years. And so because of this, now up to date is where, we get all our up to date information from PubMed. Mm-hmm. But even my GP, even my Kaiser doctor said that. And I was so impressed that he knew that. And, I was like, yeah, absolutely. So it's best to take it every other day and 4 hours away. So it depends. As I said, some prenatals have calcium. Some don't have calcium. They have iron. Some have both. And, I think in nature, a lot of us do eat food that has a little bit of calcium and a little bit of meat. And we do okay. We do absorb a little of it. It's not like they completely cancel each other out. Like if someone is having meat, a cheeseburger, they've got some iron and the cheese has some calcium, right? It's not like you're not going to absorb anything. But to me, it's like if you're going to make the perfect prenatal, like just, if you could, separate them out by 4 hours. But yeah, so if they're prenatal, depending on what it has, iron, I usually say it's like a meal. So take it with a meal and do it every other day on top of that. And make sure you do that tip when pregnant, when you're nursing, because usually the babies I check have low iron, which means they're not getting it through mom, which also means she's probably anemic. So mostly I actually find kids don't get tested in the first year or two for anything. And like 90% of the babies I check have low iron, which is why I usually recommend like bone broth or liver, or if they're not vegan or vegetarian, they're not going to hate me, some sort of protein that has heme iron in it as their first food. So my kids had liver as their first food, just a tiny bit, because we're Persian, we eat liver. But it's high in vitamin A, high in iron. Oh, you like that? Okay,
I love that.
Like, my Caucasian patients are like, gross.
No, I mean, that's the kind of thing. There was this amazing book, Super Nutrition for Babies, that's like not even in print anymore. And it was like the first foods were literally like choline DHA rich egg yolks, chewed down meat with bone broth.
This is another really good one. It's called Nourishing Tradition.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, is this Western A. Price? No. Yeah. I love that book. Phenomenal.
Yeah. So, you don't have to do that, especially if it's not in your, genetically, I always say, like, if you're Chinese, if you're Japanese, like, what did your ancestors eat? My midwife was Persian, and she's like, we eat a lot of this stuff. This is what I grew up eating, bone broth. It's like 6 months old. We usually give babies lamb bone broth because of the iron and the minerals and the calcium and all of that. So it depends. It depends on where do your ancestors come from? What did they eat a lot of? It's good to go with your genes too. And like, don't try some rare thing that you hate that you just heard in a book is good. Yeah. No one in your genetics was used to eating that.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I love it because I love the recommendations that you've made today, and just, it's all about like nutrient density and supplementing if you're not getting it through food, and making sure those levels are high, because that's all really supportive of making sure your thyroid's working, your sex hormones are on point, and you can really have a healthy, happy baby. So it's like
you're helping the baby soon.
I know. I feel like I could pick your brain all day, but so many great nuggets from like antioxidants that we should be making our men take if they are going to be our sperm donators, to cleaning up your water filter and your air filter, making sure if you do need to take iron that you're taking it every other day, and not around calcium. I really love it. I'm so excited for the moms out there who are interested in getting pregnant and planning for it to take advantage of all of these tips. But I know you have so many more tips on your website, and you have a private practice. So why don't you tell everyone where they can find you so that they can follow along and then join in where they want to and need to. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do my Trimester Zero course in groups of women. I find they do so well when we are in a team. Like I have right now 3 women who are 45. They're doing embryo transfers together, and like the bonds and the questions and just the connection of not feeling alone and doing this with someone else. And then I have my 22-year-olds in there who are, they married early and they want to make sure they're doing everything right before conceiving. So it's nice to have and bond with people. So TrimesterZeroCourse.com is where my course is to help people have healthy babies. And that's for couples, both men and women. It's a 7-week self-paced online course, sort of like your pregnancy, Fab Four. There's so many of them. I can't keep track. Such nice ones. And then my aimforwomen.com is my website. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Demeri. And happy to help anyone who wants to get their hormones balanced and just themselves healthy first before conceiving.
I love it so much. We'll make sure there are links to all of this in the show notes, and along with some of the tips like pristine hydro if people are interested in getting that water filter and things of that nature. So we just so many nuggets of solid information for people to really start changing their life, habit by habit, brick by brick. So I love it. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your time.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Be Well by Kelly. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Learn more at BeWellByKelly.com and follow me on Instagram at BeWellByKelly. I would love if you picked up my books, Body Love and Body Love Every Day. They're sold on Amazon and at all major booksellers.